Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simon and Friends podcast. I'm Simon Short. Joining me this week is Josh Lemonsay. And Josh, welcome back in, man. How you doing?
Happy holidays, Simon. It's good to be here. And winter is in full throw in Minnesota. We had winter weather the other day, and MnDOT was saying over 120 crashes were reported to on the highways and stuff. So I just saying this, hope everyone in these types of weather states or wherever you're listening to this from, be safe out there. Just like you say at the end of your podcast.
You
Watch the
took the
roads. They're
words
they're the beautiful picturesque scenes mean for terrifying road situations. So be safe, please.
took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, it's a good time to just say that right at the top, right? It's the 30th as we're recording this, so not quite New Year's Eve. Once again haven't decided if this is going to come out probably New Year's Day. You guys can listen to stuff on New Year's Day, so we'll get back to our Thursday schedule. Hope everyone's having a happy Thursday and you were safe on
Hmm.
Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. But just in case you're listening to this late into your New Year's festivities, like 6 a.m. on New Year's Day, be safe out there when you're making your way home on this
That's right.
early morning or late night, whatever you want to call it for yourself.
Have fun, but plan ahead.
Have fun and be safe out there. So Josh, it's time for the final power rankings 5.0. And
Yes.
I feel like this year, I don't know what we did exactly. I don't know. I forget if we had a fifth week somewhere or if we were fully on schedule every week. But I think this was the best laid out schedule for us
Mhm.
this year because we're ending this right before week 18 starts.
Yep.
In the past, we've done it like 2 weeks, or maybe there was one time maybe even 3 weeks, and we felt like we had to do like a little addendum. But I think this is the perfect
Yep.
time to do this ranking and really get our final. These are the good teams. These are the
Yep.
best teams. And not only have we gone through and separated like good teams and contenders and pretenders and bad and real fake, all that stuff. I think we and like inner circle versus like just on the outside. I think we have the true order. Like we
Yep.
have figured it out. And maybe I was thinking about this. Maybe we're a little reactionary, right? Maybe we're not giving you the getting out in front of the analysis. Oh, we weren't on the Jaguars 7 weeks ago, but we were getting there 4 weeks ago, and now
Yep.
spoiler, we're on the Jaguars a little bit. But that's the point here. That's the point of
Yep.
this show for us. We're giving you the measured, correct take on the landscape of the NFL. And I think we've landed in the right spot, and I think we did it without overreacting too much throughout the season. How'd you feel about power rankings 1 through 4 this year? And as we sit here about to reveal 5.0.
Yeah, I like what you said about, being on a team maybe a few weeks after the hype started about the team. I think for us, the phrase that probably is the theme of the whole podcast this season for this show is proof of concept, right? And so the teams on our list, we want to make sure if you're in our top five, in our top eight, you're most likely a playoff team, obviously, but on top of that, you've got a body of work that represents a team that's done it consistently enough and not fluky. And so that's why it takes a long time for the Bears, for example, to be knocking on the
Yep.
door of the top 10, right?
Another good example.
Sure plenty of power rankings would have had them up there earlier when they had
Hmm.
the kind of the North in hand and were playing really well. But we need to see it more because it's still very fresh for the Bears. Even the whole season's very fresh, and not all teams can have the turnover differential that they have. Spoiler alert, we might mention that in a few minutes. So I think it's a good way to talk about it. Like the theme of our podcast this season was it was related to proof of concept. And then the other thing that stands out to me, because I my little blurb before my rankings and my notes says what surprised me. And I know last year I was harping on look at the best teams in the playoffs, so the teams that can run the football.
Hmm.
This year is kind of proving that theory wrong. This year, I have the yards per attempt rankings. I'm not going to read all the teams, but there are some stinker teams up there in the top 10 yards per game, and it's not as telling of a situation. And so you can take that in a couple ways. You could say, well, maybe my theory last year was just a theme of last year and not
Hmm.
exactly success in the NFL. Or you could look at it that there's a little bit more parity. And that's kind of where I'm leaning this year is like there feel like the contenders that we have right now, I feel it is they're less representative of a dominant team
Yes.
than there have been in years past. Like for the past few years, and it's weird. The only reason that's weird is because for the past few years, it's been so easily for us. It's the Eagles, it's the Bills, it's the Chiefs, it's the Ravens, right?
Ravens. Hmm.
When you look at those quarterbacks, those team infrastructures, those elite defenses and offenses, and all the players they have, Like it just seems so standard for them to be up there. But this year, all those teams have flaws. One of those
Hmm.
teams, the least expected team on that list, does not have a chance at the playoffs anymore.
Hmm.
And we know the Ravens have been very up and down, and so we'll talk about all that later on. But I just think that the parity is a little bit different because there aren't people at the top. There aren't teams that are so easily at the top. The best records are teams that maybe haven't fully proven themselves yet, or maybe they're really elite on defense, on not offense, so to speak. And so, which I think makes it interesting. So I like this list. I like what you said about timing too. We don't need to talk about week 18. There's going to be so many teams resting. Week 18 is not going to tell us anything except for the division winner in the NFC and the AFC North, or NFC South and AFC North. That's the only fun information we get from Week 18. Otherwise, but we know who those teams are already too, so it's
Yep.
not going to tell us much different.
And they're all right around each other in our ranking. Um,
Exactly.
I'm really glad you talked about the parity because that was also part of me getting to my final installment of the rankings where there were teams that didn't have the makeup this year, that the best teams this year didn't have the makeup of what those best teams have been. So not only was it that the best teams from previous years weren't as good, there weren't teams that were one for one taking their place in terms of being, I always reference DVOA. That's like one of my big things. And I always talk about it at the beginning of the year. Who are the teams that are going to be top 10 in both in offense and defense and overall DVOA? There's only two of those teams this year, and one of them is eliminated from the playoffs. Like it's a completely different world this year. So
Yep.
both for this power rankings, but also for like who's going to actually win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a completely different set of circumstances for a team that gets them there. It's not that they are firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball and they have a superstar quarterback. It's maybe they have one of those things all the time, one of those things some of the time, and one of those things none of the time. And just how do they counteract that? Which is so really fascinating. Like what's a Patriots defense in the playoffs going to do when they don't sack the quarterback and don't turn the turn you over stat that we talked about last month, right? How
Right.
what is that going to look like in the playoffs when they don't have that guy? Or is it going to be a here you are, Ben? Is it going to be a Frank Clark situation where Harold Landry just out of nowhere has like 10 pressures in 3 games and gets the Patriots to a Super Bowl? We'll see. Like what's gonna either be out of the norm from the regular season in the postseason, or what weird thing this postseason is gonna win a team games that hasn't happened in the past.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, and so that's part of some of my teams now making the jump because okay, not a lot of top 10 teams on offense and defense coalesce this year. So how do you weigh the quarterback with a mediocre offense around him, an elite defense with a bad offense on the other side of the ball, an elite offensive infrastructure, but a quarterback we don't believe in? How we weigh all those things here in this final power rankings is going to truly determine what order it goes and not hanging on to some of those other teams. Um,
Yep.
with that said, you ready to reveal our top eight?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Top eight. I'm giving up on the whole third column shows you what happened last month thing. That's gone. I didn't like it. It didn't work. I tried it, I failed, and it didn't work out. So, anyways, Josh, we have the same. All that said about like parody and strangeness, whatever. We have the same top three. We have all of our top six teams are the same, just in a slightly different order, and we have seven of the same top eight. Um, where do you want to start? We have the Rams, Bills, and Patriots all one, two, and three. The Rams stick at one for us. I think the Bills are going up 2 spots for us,
Yep.
and the Patriots are also going up 2 spots for us. So what do you want to talk about there in that top three?
I want to talk about the Rams and the Seahawks. I think all that you need to say for the Bills is that they're a flawed team, but they have Josh Allen, and I don't know who else you want in the clutch. And they're
Yeah.
finding ways to win games, so it's not
Hmm.
like the alarms aren't necessarily going off. We'd like them to be a little bit more efficient on both sides of the ball right now, but I'm not going to bet against the Bills in a year without Mahomes in the playoffs. This could be the year for the Bills, so
Hmm.
I'm not going to drop them out, and they've been winning games. So, um, the Rams will be quick too, because I know people are going to say, well, they just lost to the Seahawks and then they lost to the Falcons of all people. But everyone calm down. The Seahawks game, they were up by 2 scores with 9 minutes left, and they had the two couple three and outs. And the Seahawks are a weird team. They have quick strike ability, but it's not consistent. But they have the defense that can keep them close enough until that happens. And so
Hmm.
they had a lot of things go right, and credit to them. They made the comeback, and then they went for two, which, by the way, I feel like is the we're going to see that more and more. And I feel like that's going to be, I mean, my high school team did it in our section game and we won. We did the same thing. We scored in the
Heck yeah.
last 20 seconds and we went for two to avoid an overtime. So I think that's the Seahawks game. Great defense, great division rivalry. I wasn't going to that was a lapse. And
Hmm.
then last night's game against the Falcons, I mean, I don't think you need to look any further than DJ Humphries in for Alaric Jackson at left tackle. I mean, I feel bad for DJ Humphries because that's going to be a tough one for him to live with all week. Had a horrific game. He got a 30 some yard pass to Puka Nacua callback early because of his holding call. He was letting, I forget the edge rusher on the outside is letting him. And by the way, Atlanta's edge rushers have been better than we thought this year. He's getting beat inside of revealing pressure. He had the holding call on that late touchdown. I wrote down all these things. Oh, the holding call was on a Nakua touchdown. Earlier, it was the illegal
Yep.
formation on this huge play that got him in the red zone. So, like, DJ Humphrey single-handedly ruined like three drives for the Rams. And so
It was so tough, man.
it
He
was
was
tough.
he was good just like 3 years ago. Like the year
Yeah.
before, I forget what leg injury he had the year before the Cardinals drafted Paris Johnson. Humphreys was in that mold of like Colton Miller and
Mhm.
Jake Matthews, not quite as good as those guys, but just like rock solid, steady for like several years at left hat. And then he like, gets hurt, misses time, goes to the Chiefs,
Yeah.
plays one game for the Chiefs last year, gets hurt. It's tough. This is what happens when you're over 300 pounds and you start to pile up some injuries. It gets ugly quick. So
Yeah.
anyways, continue.
Well, and I just hate to rail on one guy, but you have the classic scenario of the team and the Falcons who have nothing to play for except their coach and their
Hmm.
pride, and because they're football players and they only had two more chances to play football this year, so everyone's going to
Yep.
come to play. We've seen those teams beat better teams all the time. When the Rams have already clinched, it's a long shot for them for the one seed. I don't even know if they could get it at that point. Maybe they could,
Hmm.
but I think after Seattle won, I think they were already out of one seed discussion, if I'm not mistaken. So it the Rams are prepping for the postseason, and I think they saw pretty early on if the pressure's gonna be coming that easily. Like if they didn't get that blocked field goal return, they might have just thrown in Garoppolo. No, wait, Garoppolo's not on the Rams anymore. Who's their backup now?
Is it Wentz? Is it Garoppolo? Is it Garoppolo? It
It
might be
might be
Garoppolo still.
Garoppolo. Maybe it
It's
is, but
one.
either way,
It's one of those nameless, faceless white guys. Don't
yeah,
worry. Whatever. It doesn't
they
matter.
might have just thrown in the backup and said, "Let's just get ready. Let's make sure Stafford doesn't break an arm or something." Like it,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm making excuses for them, and that's not fair. And sure, but this is the team that we've been high on all year, and they've proven it by being one of the top teams. If they weren't coming out of this tough division, they would have had a good shot at the one seed. So I think the Rams are still the best team. In terms of quarterback, Josh Allen's the one I would want in the clutch out of everyone so far going to the playoffs, but close behind is Matt Stafford, and that's only
Hmm.
because Stafford can't move as well. But from a accuracy standpoint, from a no look passing ability standpoint, I still want Stafford back there if I have an option. So I have no problem keeping the Rams here, even though they lost their last two games. It's kind of maybe cheating a little bit, but
The Rams are really good at this, where we're ready to declare them the best team in the NFL, and then the night before we get on to do the podcast, they have an embarrassing loss to a bad team. But here's the thing: the Falcons, just like the Panthers last month, just like beat good teams and lose to bad teams for some reason.
yep,
Like you said, they were amped up, ready to go, and not that the Rams weren't, but when you throw kind of a crazy pick six after, the Falcons have a good opening drive, a good opening script with Bijan Robinson, and like I
yep,
can't blame the Rams for having a hard time with Bijan Robinson,
yeah,
but then Stafford throws the pick six, and then you're down 14-0 right away, and then it goes down 21-0, and McVay goes for that field goal. What was that, early in the third? So then it's 21-3. They were just in a weird,
yep,
unfortunate game script. And again, this is why we don't do this every week, because like weird stuff happens in football, and it just so
yep,
happens that this weird game is the day before we record this podcast. So it's gonna look silly to still say the Rams. But listen, man, nobody at the end of that Seahawks game, I know you were you were defending it a little bit. No one came out of that Seahawks game thinking anything other than, are these the best two teams in the NFL? Like,
right,
and so to lose that game did not mean anything negative on the
right,
Rams. That just meant a lot for Seattle, clearly, because
yeah,
we moved them up in
yeah,
our rankings here. Um, and the Rams completely dismantled the Lions and the Cardinals earlier in the month. So 2-2 this month. They are top three in all stats of DVOA, second overall, first on offense, third on defense, and that's even after the Falcons game. So I'm not moving off of them. Bills over Patriots to me comes down to the Bills, and of course there's all this talk about like Drake May and strength of the schedule. I'm not going to do that tonight, but what I am going to talk about is when the Bills play even average to below average defenses, they're still an elite offense. The unfortunate
Mhm.
thing for them in this ranking is they're coming off of playing the Browns and the Eagles, which are two of the top five defenses in the
Yep.
NFL. They've had fewer than 345 yards of offense just four times this season, and three of those were in losses, right? So when they can get to just over that 345 number because they're not playing an elite defense, they're just going to win games, and chances are they're probably going to do it by a good bit. New England is
Mhm.
clearly rising for me. I had them a little lower last month than you did,
Yep.
because of what I was saying, where the best teams just like get after the quarterback and or create turnovers, create havoc on defense some way, and that's still not the case. Um, but listen, they are in this inner circle because of the landscape of the NFL this season.
Yep.
So they have an elite offense, an MVP caliber quarterback, and a good head coach and OC pairing, and that's what it'll take this year. They are
Yep.
firmly in that discussion.
Yep.
Um, and this is going to be in the roots of an elite offense is still going to rise above the really good defenses for me. So
Yep.
that's why these three teams Sans, if when I pull the stats kind of for 4 weeks here, the Bills are a little lower. They're kind of right on the edge of the top 10. But like the Patriots and the Rams, by all accounts, the best
Yep.
offenses in the league right now, along with another team we'll talk about soon. But this was an easy kind of top three for me because I can just see all of these offenses going into the playoffs and just winning any shootout no matter who
Yep.
they're playing. And yeah, I'm with you. Josh Allen just like he helps get that nod over the Patriots because I unless he's playing that elite defense, he just feels like he's gonna win every game.
Yep. And the Patriots defense, it's not the best stat, it's just yards allowed per game. But when I was looking at it, the list in front of them, they're seventh in yards allowed per game on average. The 16s in front of them are Houston, Cleveland, Denver, the Chargers, the Seahawks, and the Vikings. So like that's good company in terms of defense. So
Absolutely.
you're totally right. They don't rush the passer well enough, and I don't know if their defense is where it should or could be. But when you got Drake May throwing for five TDs, he just looks like he's taken the step that he needs to, and he's going to be in the MVP discussion for the next 5 years. So,
All right, so those were our top three teams. Let's hit this next three because we have the same next three. We have Seattle, San Francisco, and Philadelphia in some order.
yep,
Um, I went with that order: Seattle, San Francisco, Philly. You went Philly, Seattle, San Francisco. Talk
yep,
to me about why Philly is still atop these two teams that are leading the NFC right now in Seattle and San Francisco.
yeah, it was tough because this is, I put a good win against the Bills in quotes. Like wasn't necessarily the greatest win, but the biggest difference there was Jalen Carter was back after injury. And he is just such a menace. He disrupts so much there, and their defense is already good. And so when Jalen Carter's in there, their defense has, I think you mentioned they're already in the top 10 DVOA. Like they're going to be really good. Their offense, I did want to drop them because of that, because while they do have the pedigree of being there, done that, won the Super Bowl last year, have a lot of the same pieces, they are not running the ball anywhere near what we thought. And we've said all along that while Jalen Hurts is a gamer, he's a champion, but he's not an elite passer. And so if they don't get the running game going in the playoffs, I think they're really going to struggle when crunch time hits because they've been able to rely on controlling the clock, controlling the ball, you know, tush pushing their way to long drives. And I don't know if they can do that as well this year with even with Saquon Barkley back there. It's just not the same rushing game. So they were a tenuous pick at four for me. The reason I didn't have the Niners up there is, man, they are humming offensively. They look like one of the best offenses. And if Purdy hadn't been hurt all year, it'd be interesting to see what their record would be. Um, but the thing that knocked them down is that the Niners can still get thrown on quite a bit. Their defense isn't where it needs to be, and
You're really polite. Their defense is terrible. Their defense is real bad, like real bad.
and they're -5 in the turnover margin. And Purdy's good for, he had 5 picks or 5 TDs and 1 pick. Like he's good
Hmm.
for 1 pick. And so without that elite defense, you can't make that many mistakes in the playoffs. Like one mistake can be the end of it, even if he throws for 4 touchdowns before that. And so I think that the Niners need some flowers for just their offense clicking at such an elite level, but their defense really brings it down. And then the team I actually wanted to talk about the most here is the Seahawks because
Hmm. Oh yeah.
their defense is so good, and because it's so good, I was trying to think about how to describe them because they don't run the ball efficiently at all. Like their rushing numbers are terrible. They're 27th yards per attempt, and they're fifth in attempts per game. And so I was trying to make sense in my own head about these stats, and what I came to the conclusion of is that they don't care if they get field goals. They don't care if they're not going to score on every drive because they have the mentality that, well, our defense is not going to give up much. So we play smart, we stay close to the vest, we do what we need to, and then that does set up later some of those big plays from Darnold to JSN, right? The reason they came back in the
Hmm.
Rams game, they were doing nothing for a large portion of the game, but because they commit to that for so long, I do think that is to their benefit. But they can only do that because their defense is so elite, and so they're such a weird team to me because I was burned by Sam Darnold last year, and I know he's had a great year again overall, but he has not been particularly great for the past few weeks. He has not done anything to instill confidence in me, eye test wise, to say that he's going to champ or to lead this team to the Super Bowl. And so again, they're relying on that elite defense with the game manager quarterback, but Darnold also has a penchant for throwing picks, and so um, in some ways I wanted the Seahawks at 4, but they're just way too weird for me. So it was actually the Seahawks were going to stay at 5, and then I was either going to go Niners at 4 or Eagles at 4. And I ended up going with the team that's got a little pedigree, but I have no problem rearranging rearranging some of these teams. I just think that that's such a weird stat. Like the Seahawks commit so hard to the run, and yet they're so inefficient. Um, I mean, they're not bad. They're not, obviously they do it well enough, but I think if their defense wasn't literally the top of the league, I think they have, I think they're 9-8, and Darnold's thrown for 30 TDs, and he's got the Jameis line of 30 TDs and 30 picks because they're always coming from behind. The defense is everything to them, and I don't know. Same
Can
with
I
the
tell you
Broncos. It
something
might be
though?
hard to sustain that. I don't know.
Ugh, don't say that. Can I tell you something though? Because you said if their defense wasn't elite, their defense is elite. We're here.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
5.0.
That's
It's
that's true.
week 18.
That's
Like
true.
it is what it is. They are who we thought they were, right? So Seattle, San Francisco, Philly, I had as a tier, and yeah, I was trying to sort out how I felt about those three. And Seattle to me gives me that best chance of being that closest to a balanced team. The offense is real enough for me to keep them in the inner circle of contenders. I also went to the run game because their run game was like bottom of the barrel the first 6, 7 weeks or so. Um, they are up to 19th in rush offense DVOA and 23rd in success rate on runs this season. So they have moved into the mediocre tier of a run game to go along with an elite pass attack and an elite defense. Again, we're not getting all the things we want in a team this season. So that means we have to kind of look at the things, what's the most value, right? What's helping teams the most? And it's literally being one of the two, three, four defenses that truly, truly matter this season and being a consistently elite pass game. By the way, they are 4-0 this month. I didn't do this for the Bills or the other teams, but the Seahawks are 4-0 this month,
Yep.
beat the Panthers, the Rams, the Colts, the Falcons. The Falcons, the Giant Slayers, the Seahawks took care of them. The one kryptonite that you could point to now, if this run game is at least going to be mediocre, right? If you're like, hey, top 10 pass team, mediocre run game gets you a borderline top 10 offense. They're 11th in offensive DVOA this season. Um, what's their one kryptonite that you would think is exactly what you said, Sam Darnold turnovers, right? The Seahawks have had three or more turnovers 4 times this season. They are 3-1 in those games. They've never had fewer than 19 points, and they've never had fewer than 316 total yards. And those weren't even in the same game. So even if they were even if they walked into every game, turning the ball over 3 times, only scoring 19 points and only gaining 316 yards, that defense can stop teams at 14, 15 points and they can win all those games. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
even
Yep.
on their worst offensive output, the thing we're worried about most, because at the end of the day, if it's a playoff game and we're like, Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet haven't gotten off to a good first quarter here, we're gonna be like, so what? The offense is built around Darnold chucking it. How's Darnold chucking it? He's got two interceptions. Oh, well, what's the next part of the story? Oh, he's got 220 passing yards and two touchdowns to JSN. Oh, okay, well, that's all they need then. Is the defense playing football? Yeah, the defense is okay, then we're in good shape. So Seattle giving me that balance that the 49ers aren't with their terrible defense and the Eagles aren't with what is just a terrible offense this season. It's never come around. The offensive line was just hurt all season, between Landon Dickerson starting the year off hurt and never really getting healthy, Cam Jurgens being out, Tyler Steen not working out at right guard, and then Lane Johnson now being hurt and trying to make his way back. The offensive line is the lifeblood of that offense. We know that. So the run game never happened. Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown have whatever they have going on. So the pass game, even for what it is at its peak, never kind of coalesced. Because let's not forget, last year, it wasn't until the last 4 to 6 weeks of the season that Philly's offense overall really even took off. They made it through most of last season with
Yeah.
Saquon explosive plays and the defense being elite. This year, the defense is elite. We're not getting the Saquon explosive plays because the offensive line isn't there.
Yeah.
So when I'm tearing those things off, I'm like, well, Seattle can give me really high offense and elite defense. And then I'm going to go to the 49ers who elite offense. Like they are up to second in offensive DVOA this year. They're clicking on all cylinders. Everybody's there, right? I know Kittle missed this last game and Trent Williams got hurt. So even when I say everybody's there, not everybody's there. But like Purdy is there. Both receivers are, if they have one of those receivers, Pearsall and
Yep.
Jennings, like they're in good shape. They got both of them right now. They're going to get Kittle back. McCaffrey is there and playing, and he got his longest run of the season the other night. Elite offense and bad defense, not just elite offense and like so-so defense or elite defense and so-so offense. Elite offense and bad defense is going to beat out like mediocre offense and elite defense for me, right? Every single time. So that's why I've got the 49ers over the Chargers, but then Seattle is really just kicking butt right now. So I've got them at
Yeah.
4.
I have no problem dropping the Eagles. I don't have any personal ties. I like seeing them get knocked down a peg, to be honest. So I'm not gonna argue with
And
you there.
and I tried not to do this too much this time because I think I relied on it a lot last month, but like how far teams are moving when we do this. So the
Yeah.
Eagles would just be kind of staying where they're at if we put them at 6. San Francisco would be moving up 5 and Seattle would be moving up 3.
Yeah. Feels right.
That's a big jump for San Francisco, but like I think you mentioned pedigree. They're showing us this is the offense is just as good as it's ever been. And when you have that with San Francisco, it doesn't matter what the defense looks like. And when the league is as weird as it is this season, like what if it just takes all this parity for this to be the year the 49ers break through because like their offense is just as good as it ever was. Like
Right.
I'm into this. All
I'm
right,
pretty
so
sure I
we're so
picked, by the way, I'm pretty sure I picked them to win the West, and it wasn't looking
had a
good at
boy.
first. And now, if they beat the Seahawks, they have the 1 seed and the West. Let's go. I mean, I'm not super excited for them as a fan. It's
Sure,
hard
sure,
for
sure.
me to not be a fan. So
Listen, man,
I have to really concentrate to put my analyst hat on.
personal takes and fantasy football help end up ruling all in terms of what we actually care for more than like antiquated rivalries or things that we may not prefer in our for our own personal enjoyment. If we can get a take right, that's where we want to be.
That's right.
Um, okay, so here's where we're at. LA, Buffalo, New England, Seattle, San Francisco, Philly are our top 6. Before we go to like 7 and 8 here, what do you think in terms of like these 6? Do you think our Super Bowl winner comes from these 6? Do you think it's even fewer than these 6 teams? Like what's the inner circle for you?
The inner circle for me is probably there's this might just be my bias against what I saw from Sam Darnold last year because I totally agree with what we talked about. But in my head, it's the Niners and the Rams in the NFC, and it's the Bills and the Patriots in the AFC. Like those are the 4 teams I would say would be my championship game picks, and then I mean, obviously anything can happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Bills Rams or Bills Niners or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, I can't see it with Seattle, even though I mean they're in the top five, so why wouldn't they have a chance? They could have a bye in the first round. That'd be huge for them, of course. So, but
Oh man, I can't wait for that game next week. All right,
I
cool.
can't wait for the
Seattle's
NFL
here.
to just make the playoffs 8 teams and give the first two seeds byes, so we would still
Oh
have a
man,
chance to get in.
we we could we could do a whole thing on different things we want to see in the NFL, but we don't have that kind of time.
We don't have
All
that time.
right. So let's see. 7 and 8. You have Denver in the top 8. I have Jacksonville. We
Yep.
both have Green Bay here.
Yep.
Um, Obviously Green Bay is sliding. They were 2 for us last month. Once again, we put the curse on a team because we were like, this is it. This was the vision. When everything clicks, when Michael Parsons and the defense fits around him, when he's rolling, the defense fits around him. When
Yep.
Christian Watson is there, everybody in the hierarchy of the offense makes sense. They've kind of settled on some offensive line machination. Um, and then what happens? Michael Parsons tears his ACL. Jenkins had gone out just like a week before that happened. Jordan Love gets concussed. And here we are. Now it's a 5 alarm fire once again. But I want to remind everybody something real quick about Green Bay. So right now they are 1-3 this month, right? They
Yep.
beat the Bears, but then they lost to the Bears a couple weeks later, and they've also lost to the Broncos and then the Ravens in that horrific whatever random day of the week they played that Ravens game over the holiday weekend.
Right.
But let's not overreact to teams to everybody saying they're outside of the top 10, right?
Right.
They lost a 1-score game to Denver in the game Parsons got hurt. Then a week later, they lose a 1-score game to the Bears in a game that Jordan Love got concussed early in the game, right? So those are two top. You have Denver here at 7. We both have the Bears around 10. So those are two
Yep.
borderline top 10 teams where the Packers' best two players got hurt during the game, and they still managed it to be a 1-score game in both of those,
Yep.
right? And then even the game against the Ravens, the Packers are down 10 and they're driving before Clayton Tune has to come in for a play and immediately throws an interception that like 4 plays later is another touchdown for the Ravens. So the Packers were getting pushed around and getting their tails whooped in that game. And despite that, it was a 10-point game while they were driving, and like Malik Willis was looking good. So I don't I don't think we need to overreact to Green Bay. Obviously, like losing Michael Parsons changes the defense drastically. Jordan Love continues just to get nicked up every season a couple times a year. If
Yep.
Malik Willis is also nicked up, so like you can't even necessarily fall back on that consistently. But I don't think we should overreact and put them behind all these teams that we have major question marks about,
Yeah.
um, just because of the injuries and a rough stretch. This would be a move down of 5 spots, and I think that feels like plenty. You'll make the argument for maybe 6 and Denver getting above them, but I think them being still in that top 8 is correct.
No, I'm going to give you Packers Jags 7-8 because I forgot in my analysis I did everything separately apparently on teams and I didn't even put two and two together. The Jags were the team that beat the Broncos 2 weeks ago by more than one possession because my theme with the Broncos is they've only had 3 games that haven't been decided by more than one possession. And so one of those is a loss to the Jags. And since I'm a big T-Law guy, let's just go ahead and make that switch now.
Heck
And I
yeah.
think the Packers stay at 7. I think the ability to play as well as they do with their backup quarterback is super important. I think Malik Willis has. I even texted a buddy of mine who's a big Packers fan, and I said, I don't like to say good things about the Packers, but I admire Malik Willis's ability to come in and be as effective and as good as he is. I think he's making a strong case to get a starting job somewhere or like be
Minnesota Viking next year?
maybe. No, we're set. We're set. JJ had a lot of
All
learning done
right.
this year. If he can stay
Just
healthy, it'll
checking.
be fine.
Just
It'll be
checking.
fine.
Just checking.
But I do think he deserves a shot to go compete with somebody to get a starting job. Like who knows what the Colts will be like next year with
Oh God.
and a million other teams that would be considering. Um, so that's one thing. And then you mentioned Jeff Halfley he's probably also going to get a head coaching opportunity. I would think he's coached extremely well. I read a good zone coverage article on kind of that last play with the Bears. So he did adjust to Parsons being out. The whole theme has been, can we rush with just four? And when you have Micah Parsons, you can do that because he can
Hmm.
rush through 3 guys on his own. When he goes down, you have to blitz more. You have to generate more pressure. And Halfley responds to that. Responded to that well. And even that last touchdown to Jade Walker for the Bears. Um, they all the corners in Green Bay were saying it was miscommunication. Like they didn't pass off the right guy, they didn't cover him, but it was a zero blitz and they were getting home. They were pressuring Caleb Williams. So it was the right call. The Bears recovered an onside kick in that game. Like it's one of those division battles, and more of a credit
Hmm.
to the Bears for winning the game than the
Yes.
Packers to losing the game is kind of how I viewed that one. Because yeah, at first glance, it's your starting quarterback's done, your big money D end is down, you lost to your division rival. Like at surface level, this is a team that should be dropped out of the top 10. I hear what I think I wouldn't fault anyone for initially thinking that, but they're in the playoffs and they're going to be a really tough out, regardless of whether it's Love or Willis, because their defense is still playing well. Their offense has just enough to go. So I don't mind keeping them there. I think that's holding it. That's in keeping with the theme of our power rankings, which is not overreacting to things. Um, my argument for the Broncos, it doesn't need to be seven. Obviously, I've already kicked them out. I do think they're just like, if I don't have them in the top 10, like, what are we going to say when they win the Super Bowl? Because they're on one of these defensive. I don't think they will, but Simon, I've been trying to drop them the whole season, but they're 13-3. They barely beat the Chiefs, but I don't think they care. Like, it's just so,
They definitely don't care. Mm.
they definitely don't care. They believe so much in their defense, and they have every right to believe in their defense. Did you also know that Bo Nix is, or I'm going to give a little on-air trivia without giving you a chance to prep.
Heck yeah. Love it.
Bo Nix is tied for the league lead in pass attempts this year with one other quarterback. Name that quarterback.
Pass attempts. Who's
Pass
in
attempts.
Herbert?
Nope. He is a
Attempts. Who's
he's a Simon
it?
guy through and through.
Oh, Dak? Dak.
Dak.
Yeah,
Him
boy.
and him and Dak have 589 pass attempts, leading the league. And of course, Dak's, yards per target and all that. His numbers
Yeah.
are way higher, way higher. But it was mind blowing to me because for an offense that can kind of move the ball at times, but they still cannot score. It feels like they struggle to score. Like,
It's because they move the ball 2 yards every play.
yeah. And I don't know how he has that many pass attempts, but and then Bonix also leads the league in game winning drives. And I'm assuming the Broncos score with like 6 minutes left to take the lead, and then their defense just shuts them out. Like, I don't think these are buzzer beater drives. I'd have to go back and check, but there's a weird team that keeps winning, and I'm like, you know what? Going into playoffs, I'm not going to be down on them because in case they do it, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I think seven does feel too high, especially having lost to the Jags, who are on this heater that should be rewarded.
Yeah.
But I think that I would advocate for the Broncos above the Bears and Texans, who we'll get to in a second. Spoiler.
All right. Yeah, let me make my case here for the Jaguars. So this month the Jags are 4-0. They've beaten the Colts twice, the Jets and the Broncos. Um, Here's my big thing with the Jags, and here's what ultimately pushed me over. Because you want to say, when I'm talking about leaning towards the offenses, you want to say, oh, Jacksonville's offense way better than Denver's, way better than Houston's.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in a vacuum it is, right? Because over these last four games, they're up to 376 yards per game, which would be third in the league this season. So the offense is hot right now, right? Like
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers coming in, but also Brian Thomas Jr. coming back, Parker Washington being back as number three. Like their offense has settled into what it needs to be. Um, Trevor Lawrence is feeling himself. He's playing confidently. But you could say all that, and then you could be like, but they're it's just a hot streak, right? So I don't really believe it. But here's why I really wanted this team back up in the top eight. They're back to forcing turnovers.
Yep.
So they have the second best turnover margin in the NFL just this month at +6. Now
Mhm.
you could say, Simon, turnovers are fluky. Why do you care about a 4 week span of turnovers when they're playing the Colts twice and the Jets once?
Hmm.
Well, the reason is because remember early in the season when they were like leading the league in turnovers by a mile for the first 5, 6, 7 weeks? Well, now that there was a little bit of lull in that, right? In the middle of the season where they were had all the stuff with the offense that was overshadowing the fact the defense wasn't turning the ball over, and we just look and be like, oh, they're not turning the ball over as much, so the defense has kind of regressed again. But now they're back to doing it. So now, in the spirit of this 5.0, we're going into week 18. This is a team that forces turnovers. This is a team, even if it's just this season. Again, I've
Right.
said this before. It doesn't mean next year we have to project them as a top 10 defense that forces a lot of turnovers. But
Right.
for this season, they've just got the hot hand, right? They are forcing they have 30 takeaways this season, which is second in the league, and they're +12 in turnover margin, which is third in the league. So if this is an offense that's going to get nearly 400 yards a game, and it has a quarterback playing like he's finally a top 8 quarterback in the NFL, and it's a defense that has a premier edge rusher, and it has the rest of the unit that can create turnovers and is going to create turnovers,
Mhm.
then at the end of the day, I'm just going to say that this is a team that can do it on both sides of the ball. They're sixth in total DVOA, 15th on offense, seventh on defense. So if you think that over the course of the year, when their offense was really struggling, that 15th is being weighted, if this is a near top 10 offense and a top 10 defense,
Yep.
again, this is me trying to get that synergy in my head of like I want that top 10 team on both sides.
Yep.
It doesn't get them to 3 or 4 in the powerings, but it keeps them high above some of these teams that I know have obvious flaws on one side of the ball or the other. So Jacksonville to me needed to be up here at 8.
Yep, I love that. Especially as a Trevor Lawrence guy, I'm seeing him make much better decisions this year. He's running the ball more, and that's definitely him scrambling, but also it's a Liam Cohen thing. I think the coaching effect has taken hold in Jacksonville. He has 9 rushing touchdowns this year. And so with that talent, with that passing ability to also be a threat to run, I think that's adding to it a little bit. And I think the Jags are, yeah, they're on this heater right now. I think the only other thing I'll mention, you mentioned Jacoby Myers, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a little bit raw still, and so I think
Yep.
that the experience of Jacoby Myers plus with the Brenton Strange kind of blossoming into a playmaking tight end, I think that did add a pretty significant element, even though Jacoby Myers is probably criminally underrated his whole career, but he definitely has made a huge impact on the offense. And then my only issue with them is, I don't know if their pass rush is quite there. You mentioned that the turnovers, and so if they're taking the ball away, they'll be fine. But
Mhm.
um, I see them running up if they run up against the Chargers in the playoffs, right? If they don't get to Herbert, that's the kryptonite of the Chargers, right? So if they don't get to Herbert, they could easily lose that game
Yep.
38 to
Mhm.
31, right? So like you said, they're not perfect. It's going to keep them out of the top 3 or 4, but I like what you said about their top 10 in both offense and defense. And for this year, this is the team that's kind of they are firing on all cylinders going to the playoffs. So who knows? This could be. I mean, we could be talking about this 15 years down the road, saying, well, we had the ascending Drake May, we had Josh Allen, who finally didn't have to go through Patrick Mahomes and potentially Lamar, and then all of a sudden Trevor Lawrence emerges from the AFC. Like, what a storyline that would be. That would be hilarious or intense. I don't know, maybe hilarious is the wrong word, but yeah, I love that the Jags are up here, and I have no problem dropping the Broncos back out. They just beat the Broncos by 14, that elite defense, and they put up 34. I don't know if they were all offensive points. I would have to double check, but yeah, I'm with you on the Jags.
All right, so let's sort out that next group that you mentioned: Bears, Texans, Broncos. I have the Broncos at 11. I'm just holding strong to the Broncos just being like they're just not a top 10 team. I believe 11 is where they were in our last rank. Yep, they were at
Yeah.
11. The Jags, by the way, were at 13, so we just moved them up 5 spots.
Yep.
Do I
We
need to
both have
sort
the
out anybody
Bears.
else?
We both have the Bears one ahead of the Texans. So I think we can keep Bears Texans as the order. The decision is it like you have it, or is it Bears 9, Texans 10, or sorry, Broncos 9, Bears 10, Texans 11. What do you
So
think?
here's where I went. So this 9 through 11 is very similar to my group at 5 and 6, where we talked about San Fran and Philly,
Mhm.
where they're very good on one side of the ball, but the other side I have no faith in. Right. And for Philly and San Fran, it was like elite and like conceptually I can see it. This is very good and then zero faith. Chicago gets the advantage simply because the offense is going to supersede the defense for me. Like they have proven over this last month especially, but the second half of the year that this offense can just be in shootouts and move the ball and make big plays with anybody. So the offense at
Mhm.
the end of the day is just going to supersede. That was the simple case for me with Chicago over both of these teams.
Yeah.
And then the reason I'm going with Houston instead of Denver is because I like them. No, um, it's because for Chicago actually real quick because their defense, their play-by-play defense is bad. Like they get
Right.
run on, they get passed on, they don't get to the quarterback, any of that. But they also get a bump because of turnovers. They are the best team in the NFL this season at forcing turnovers. They are first in total turnovers and first in differential, and yet they're so far below even a team like the who we were just talking about, Jacksonville in DVOA. Jacksonville's seventh in defensive DVOA. Chicago's 24th. That's how bad they are at everything else, despite the fact that they lead the league in turnovers. Um, but I think their defense can get helped by all those turnovers they create. So that gives them a little bit of a bump there. Houston, I trust Houston's offense more in a matchup against one of these elite defenses, right? If the story of the season is Seattle, Denver, Philly, Houston, even the Rams in some cases, like these really stifling top-notch defenses. The Broncos just I don't can't move the ball on those units, right?
Yeah.
The last time they played a defense, even in the realm of something like that, was when they played Houston in week 8 and they win that game 18 to 15. So similar to what you were talking about, where like Bo Nick's driving and like whatever it is, but it's for the second touchdown of the game. And that was before Houston kind of locked in their offense in terms of the
Yeah.
offensive line, what their running back room was doing, the wide receivers getting a little healthy. And since then, Houston hasn't lost. They're 8-0 since that game. I don't think this version of this version of the Texans is, I think, far better than this version of the Broncos, especially because the Broncos are really tight defense still, really stout defense. They can get after you. That front can mess things up. But they're just nothing is screaming statistically that they are one of the true like unit of units this year, right?
Yeah.
Seattle and Houston and even Philly to a degree are just on a different level than even where Denver's at right now. Defense is so hard to year over year be the very, very best at, even though they're still very good. So I just think, and the way Houston plays defense, especially, is just like suffocating. So if I had to imagine Bo Nix against this defense today versus Stroud against Denver's defense today, I think Stroud is going to make one or two more plays than Bo Nix is in this sort of scenario. So that's why I have Denver all the way down. I just the way they play offense, the way, and we've been saying it like it's going to look different this year. It's going to look different this year. But I would much rather take the defenses of Seattle and Houston and who are
Yeah.
some of these other teams we had above them there, Philly.
Yeah.
Um, because I can also see where the offense alongside that is going to do maybe a little something. But
Yeah.
even the way those teams are playing defense right now is much more put you in a vice right now than I think Denver is. And I think that's shown a little bit by Jacksonville getting, to that offensive number that you mentioned.
Yeah. No, I think that's a pretty compelling argument. I think maybe I get distracted by the record a little bit. They keep winning games, except against the Jags. But it's funny because the argument about the quarterback is kind of what I had for why I had the Bears over the Texans. It's so funny to me because I feel like it happens more so in Bears games than any other games. But like Caleb Williams is so used to the Bears defense giving up touchdowns and giving up leads, and I
Hmm.
swear the broadcast camera cuts right to Caleb every time, and he's just sitting on the sidelines. You can tell he wants to be a little bit more pissed off, like, oh my God, I gotta
Uh,
go do it again. But now he's battle tested with that. Now he just
yep.
knows going into every game, he's like, every drive's important. I need to put up points. I know my defense isn't going to shut anybody out, and they're going to give up touchdowns, and so every time I go out there, I got to go out and make plays. They've been out without Roma Dunze for a while here. Like they have some receiver help that's going to be hopefully getting fully healthy when they get back into the playoffs. And I think the turnover battle is a big one. So I'm becoming a Caleb believer.
That a boy.
Was that good?
That a boy.
Caleb
That's
believer, or is
great.
that too? Was that a good pun?
I didn't get it. Nope. So maybe not.
Okay, not a good
Caleb
pun. Never
Believer.
mind. Never mind. Caleb believer because his last name ends with a B, or his last letter of his first name is a B.
Wow. Nope.
You can cut this out,
That,
right? You can cut this. Don't
I could.
don't
Not gonna.
don't
Not
put this on
gonna.
YouTube. Don't put
Not
this on
gonna.
YouTube.
Dude. Holidays, man. The dad jokes are out of control. Um. All right.
They
So you
sorry.
know what? I've been bullying you. I feel like I've been getting all. I got Jacksonville where I wanted. I got Seattle where I wanted. We laid out the arguments. This
Yeah,
is a consensus ranking. I see everything you're saying about Denver, right? Because we have the 2 year span of their defense being really, really good. We have the improbable, just like this offense is just making stuff happen despite what we know about it, and despite when you watch it, it just looks horrendous. But you tell me right now if we're thinking about, and we try not to do this on a like game by game basis, right? Right. So just the matchup against Jacksonville specifically,
yeah,
or imagining a game where it's Denver versus Houston. But again, like we're getting in the playoffs and these teams are going to be playing each other and who is actually better, right? That's what the point of this is.
Right.
We're trying to figure out who had a really good month, but also like who is actually the better
I
team.
think,
Is Denver better than Chicago and Houston?
I mean, if I think from the if we're operating with the elite offense is and bad, but also um opportunistic defense, right? Like the Bears, if that elite offense is going to overweigh or way more than really, really well, barely average offense and potentially elite defense, the Broncos, you could get me to say the Bears are better than the Broncos. I
Okay.
do feel like my eye test though on Houston's offense, I really think they'll struggle. I know that their defense will do great against Broncos defense or Broncos offense, but I would like the Houston's running game. I think Stroud still gets hit a lot.
Mhm.
I don't know if I like the Texans to score enough points against the Broncos, so I
That
that scares me a little bit.
that's probably, you know what? I think that's probably fair. So if we compare those two teams, Texans and Broncos, Texans are 4-0 this month. They've beaten the Chiefs, they beat the Cardinals, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Chargers. The Broncos are 3-1. They beat the Chiefs, the Packers, the Raiders, and they lose to the Jags. But both teams are top 10 in DVOA. Texans are fifth overall, and that's buoyed by a second place defense on DVOA, but they're 21st on offense. Jacksonville is 8th, 13th, and 8th. I do think for Denver, as ugly as it is, that and I don't want to watch it, I do think their offense probably can move the ball in more ways against like a league average defense, right? They got the screen game. Bo Nix's deep ball has been a little better the second half of the season, or just it's a 50-50 ball and came up tails for the first half of the season and heads the other half of the season. I don't know. It's weird. It's like we call it 50-50 for a reason. Um, but like when he scrambles, he's going to scramble around and create a little bit better than CJ Stroud, so that's good. Their running backs are a little bit more useful, right? So
Yep.
so that's good. They've got a bunch of different weapons they can go to, and their offensive line is better. It's not even That's another thing. It's not as good as it was last year,
Right.
but it's like Garrett
Better
Bowles
than
is still
Houston's,
like,
yeah.
and it's so much better than Houston's. So I think all that makes sense. I think if we go Chicago. We can go Denver at 10. They get the top 10 marker.
Yep.
Here finally at 5.0, I'm gonna let the 13 and 3 team or whatever they are be in the top 10.
Hey,
We'll put Houston at 11.
I'm just as mad as you are. After that 3 hours I wasted watching them play the Jets overseas, like
Oh my
I
God, dude.
I
Don't I
I didn't want to give them any credit ever. So
I just allowed them to be into the top 10 here and you just bring that game back up to me. My goodness. Um all right. We have the Chargers at 12. We have the Chargers at 12. We have the Lions both at 13. So not a lot of discussion needs to happen here, but pick one of those teams and tell me whatever you want to tell me about them.
yeah, the Chargers, all I wrote was like, imagine if they had an offensive line that didn't keep getting all their guys get hurt. Because I still think Herbert is playing as good as any quarterback in this league right now.
He needs to be on the MVP ballot. He needs to be.
He,
The MVP. I'm not going to do the whole MVP thing right now, but
yeah,
like we can't just do the value thing. So like he has to win, but he has to be on the ballot this year.
yes, I can't imagine he's not because to play through the surgery on the broken hand, he finally gets a week off next week. But he's dealing as good as he can deal, given the
He's
fact that he
insane.
has no time. And Hampton going down didn't hurt because he you can tell that Omari and Hampton does make an impact when he's healthy. You know, you I don't know if like Quentin Johnston's really been like he's been good this year from
Hmm.
fantasy standpoint. He's better than people have always said, but like Herbert doesn't even have like the elite level weapons. Like Lad McConkey, you could
Lad
argue has
down
the
year.
potential, but he's not really a game changer.
Gadsden cooled off over the course of the year.
Exactly. And so the whatever Herbert is able to do with all of that working against him is still extremely impressive to me. And their defense largely has played well overall. And so um this feels right to them. Like or feels right for them here. They're within the top 14 to teams make the playoffs. They're a playoff team. If they can keep him upright, they have a chance against anybody. It'll be fun to watch. Give a team a scare. They got their redemption a little bit against Houston. I know they lost, but they lost by 4. They also missed a field goal and an extra point. Like that's 4 points right there. It's right. So they redeemed themselves from, getting destroyed by them in the playoffs last year. And so they're battle tested too, and I like them. And man, the Lions, what a downfall. I cannot believe this team
Yeah.
didn't make the playoffs. But you can tell Goff is rattled. You can tell their offensive line issues that, we're
Hmm.
worried at the beginning of the year. They rectified them. They had some injuries there, but their offense is way out of sync, which is their calling card. Their defense has their moments, but it's not shut down enough. I mean, they held us to 51 passing yards last week or no, wait. Was that last week? That was Christmas Day. I forget if
That was
yeah, Brosmer on
last week
Christmas
was
Day.
Christmas week. Hmm.
Yeah. It's so long ago now, so we played on Thursday, but yeah, Brosmer threw for 51 yards, so
Dude, I
they really
forgot
locked us
Brosmer
down.
even played in that game, man. We got to stop having games on Christmas. It's just not for the NFL. We just can't do it.
Yeah. So,
Atrocious.
but our defense gave him fits, and he's kind of reverted back to the when Goff
Yep.
is rattled a little bit. It's not good. He's
Yeah.
underthrowing guys. He's not stepping into throws. He's making poor decisions. He's loose with the football. Like, um, he's rattled. Their offensive line is in shambles, and the defense is always just been kind of it needs their offense, right? It needs to
Hmm.
be the whole group. So they're at 13 because I would have bet $500 that they would have been in the playoffs like 3 weeks ago. I cannot believe that they're not in the playoffs. I'm glad I didn't bet any money on that because it's a
It's a
pretty
strangely specific amount of money. I feel like you had that. I feel like you had that in the hopper, and then decided to buy another Christmas present at the last
okay.
minute. Yeah, the Lions, man, 1-4 this month, and yeah, they're the team that I was saying had the makeup top 10 DVOA across the board and were eliminated. Third overall, seventh on offense, ninth on defense. But like that seventh, well, that ninth on defense is heavily carried from early in the season. The defense was awesome at the beginning of the season. And, stop me if you heard this before. Everybody on the defense got hurt.
Yep.
And the offense is seventh because they can just efficiently move the ball. And Jameer Gibbs can still get those super explosive plays,
Hmm.
but it's not the easy, well-oiled machine that it was last year. And it's a combination of Ben Johnson, Frank Ragnow, Decker has been banged up all season, two new guys starting at guard this year. So that, the offensive line is just completely, I mean, they were rotating centers like
Hmm.
in the Steelers game.
Yep.
Like I hate when teams do that with like anybody on the offense, but like they're rotating their centers between like undrafted players because Glasgow, who has been a long time guy there, is playing center this year with Ragnow out, and it just nothing went their way, and it all just kind of is crumbling around them now. So yeah, the lines fall here to 13, and then we get into the interesting stuff, right? So
Yep.
we're gonna. Oh man, I'm bouncing all around on my screens here. While I'm here, Box Score Network. Shout out Box Score Network. Go check that out. We'll do a plug at the end. So we got Chicago, Denver, Houston, the Chargers, and the Broncos rounding out 9 through 13. Let's get into the officially mid teams, I think, this season.
Yep.
Um, we both have the Ravens in this three-team tier. We both have the Panthers. I have the Steelers, and you have the Chiefs. So I'm finally higher than you on the Steelers. Um, we talked a little bit pre-show about the Chiefs, like how far to really put them
Yeah.
down. Like they're still like kind of trying to be competitive. So like that's where your 14 comes from. Me having them outside of the top half is just because at the end of the day, this isn't a struggling Mahomes Chiefs anymore. This is the Chris Oladokun Chiefs for the last couple of weeks of
Yeah.
the season. So like how good is that team? Um, do you want to still kind of talk about the
I'm
Chiefs at 14? Do you want to focus on one of these other teams?
I'm not gonna fight for them super hard. I was just the only thing I was gonna say about the Chiefs is like I don't think the dynasty's done. I think Mahomes will come back. I think without
Yeah.
having to deal with a Rasheed Rice injury next year, I think they'll be good. I do think Kelsey's kind of done. I think that should be a retirement decision. I
That's a
think
bummer.
perhaps. I know it'll be the end of an era,
But
but
this is the NFL, man. Like
yeah,
even the NBA, like the ending is never as pretty as it should be. The NFL, like, is
yeah,
hardly ever pretty in any sort of capacity.
yeah. So I only had him at 14. I had no idea how far to drop him. And because we had him at 3 last time, I was like, wow, 11 spots is pretty punishing. And if Homestead healthy, they would have been kind of on the fringe of the playoffs, even though they had already been
Exactly. If
eliminated. So it's hard to tell, but
Yep. Yep. If Mahomes had been healthy, I still might have had them at like ninth based on how I feel about the other teams in the NFL. Even if they're like 3 games out of the playoffs with 1 game left to play. Like it's just the idea is just how good are these teams. And I think last month or maybe it was the award show with Peyton, I talked about the one score game and how that has swung the opposite way for the Chiefs this
Yep.
season, it doesn't mean they're a far worse team. It just
Right.
means they play close games, and that came back to bite them this year, and they have to make hugely fundamental changes next year to counteract that, to not be in that position again. Um, but at the end
So
of the day, if Mahomes is playing, they're still a top 10 team. But Mahomes
right.
is out, and not only is he out, Gardner Minshew is out, and it's Chris
Yeah.
Oladokun. So
Yeah.
they are outside the top half for me. So talk about Ravens or Panthers. What do you
Yeah,
want to
I'll
do
talk
here?
about the Panthers. So I would love to move them up another spot here. Their defense is playing really well. I like what I'm seeing from the Panthers on defense for the most part. And I was trying to find some stats I found weren't super exciting to me, but I did find a cool article about how Dave Canales gives a lot of his coaching maturation credit to Pete Carroll, and it's kind of from that tree. And I do think his motivation, his kind of demeanor has had an effect. You can call it like a weird eye test thing to do, but you can tell that everyone's playing hard for Dave Canales. You can tell
Oh yeah.
he's got a great handle on things, and he's got this team playing above their ability level by far, in my opinion. I know that the NFC South is like the worst division in football, but but the fact that they have a chance, I don't think anyone thought that they were going to be one of the teams that had a chance to win it this year because, frankly, their offense is just way too inconsistent. It stems from Bryce Young. Like what did I see? They're fifth in running. Okay, so their running game was okay for a while. Like they have a fifth in PFF score for run blocking. Like they had a decent running game, but um, I just don't think they can rely on it too much because Bryce Young's still kind of all over the place. Like he'll make an elite play. He'll make a great touchdown throw at a crucial moment. Like all credit to him for being a gamer, but there's also times when his throw will be completely off the mark. It'll be poor timing. It'll be the wrong decision. And so like when you get to the playoffs, yeah, he can run the ball well, but I cannot see him winning a playoff game, unfortunately. And so, like, for all the grittiness he's shown and for all the moral victories this team has proven that they're respectable this year, I think that they do have to go into another direction. So, you talk about this team of mid teams, right? Like, they might get into the playoffs, but I'm already more thinking for them about who's going to be quarterback for them next year because I think at the bare minimum, they need to bring somebody in to kind of compete with Bryce Young. And if he wins it, he wins it. Good for him. I want to see him get better, but I think they're just too inconsistent offensively for a defense that's playing above where they're at. And so I think this team is in the right direction. And I like that for them. I like that for Dave Canales. And I really hope they get in the playoffs because the Buccaneers have completely fallen off. That's another team I wanted to drop further than I did, but maybe we'll keep the Chiefs above the Bucks. Maybe, but that'll be the benchmark. So I'll move them out of 14. They still got to be above the Bucks.
Um, all right, the Bucks, classic. All right, so the Panthers, yes, I love anecdotally everything you're saying. Right now, they're 1-2 this month, and they've lost to the New Orleans Saints. I don't love that. This would be moving them up. See, we're in the mid teams now. I can kind of just rely back on the old how much that would be moving them up 2 spots to get to 16, right? Is that the number that we're talking about right now?
I think they
16?
were at
Oh,
18 last time.
14. Six. So yeah, so
They would
16
be
would be
moving them
two
up
spots where
four.
I have them.
Yep.
14 would be 4 spots. So that would be a pretty heavy move up for a team that, yeah, you're right. The run game has cooled down. The defense has settled kind of at mediocre. There's just not a lot. I truly believe it. Like I like fundamentally the direction that everything is headed, and like I think everything is maybe like 10 to 20% like spunkier, grittier than I think we expected, right?
Yep.
But like then they can still turn around and lose to the Saints,
Yep.
and Bryce Young can throw for 110 yards in a game, and you can just be like, oh yeah, that's right. Like that's why there's the Panthers that we thought we were getting at the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
which is why then Baltimore for me at 14, who was what 18th in our 19th in our rankings last time, behind the Panthers,
Mhm.
um, behind the Bucks that you just trashed at a drive-by when we're not even talking about the Bucks. Um, they play that game against the Packers, and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, there's the Ravens bully ball that we've been waiting on. Baltimore is 2-2 over the month. They lose that 32-14 game against the Bengals, and then they blank the Bengals 2 weeks later. Um,
I don't,
they lose to the Steelers. They uh, blank the Bengals this month. That other Bengals game came last month. but they lose a tough game, a close game to the Patriots where like a couple fumbles don't happen and like maybe they beat the Patriots.
Mhm.
This team, the Ravens feel so close to being
Yep.
what we were waiting on all season, and the year has just been marred by injuries all throughout, and it's such a weird place to be. But when I look at this team, and I look at the Steelers, and I look at the Panthers, and the Chiefs, and got all these other teams that are going to be right around here, this is still the closest team to me that feels like, oh, if they get in the playoffs, like maybe they do make some noise. Maybe
Yeah.
Lamar is going to get healthy right at the end.
Yeah.
Henry is running the ball extremely well. This
So
is
you say that
this is December.
the
This is
Derrick
Henry's
Henry
time.
factor, the Derrick Henry factor might just be enough to move them up because he's looking like he's in prime form, and if they can get him going, they have a shot against anybody.
And I mean, I think they've been changing around some of their lineups on the offensive line. I mean, I think Voorhees got hurt, but so that's probably part of it. But they've been trying some different things to help alleviate those issues they've had on the line this season. So it would just it's really funny to think about these teams next to each other, especially when the whole thing with Bryce Young coming out. I think like one of the popular things to do was like imagine him next to Derrick Henry of all people, and like we're here doing this power rankings, and we're like, are we gonna put the team quarterback by the 5'10", 170 pound guy in front of who wins the NFC South, or are we gonna go with the guy who's being the team that's being led by the whatever Henry is 6'3", 240 pound running back that runs a
Yeah.
4.3. I don't know which football team do I want to believe in when I describe those two offensive players to you.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, at the end of the day, we both have them just 3 spots away. But like,
Yeah.
I'm like, man, the Ravens are because the Panthers get in the playoffs. They're what the 4 seed. Who's going to be the 5 seed? Is it going to be the Rams or probably the loser between San Fran and Seattle?
Yeah.
So like, I mean, we saw the Panthers play that weird 49ers game where they had like 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
But like, is that going to happen again? Are they going to? If Bryce Young has to play the Seattle defense in the first round of the playoffs, I mean, didn't we just see that? Didn't those teams just play? Hang on, wait, I have Seattle's schedule right here.
Yeah, they just
Um,
they torched him last week, 27-10, because the Panthers could have clinched the division last week, but they had to beat Seattle and they
because
couldn't. So
Bryce Young is small and the Seahawks are scary. Meanwhile, the Ravens, if
yeah,
they're the 4 seed and the 5 seed's not going to be the Chargers, it's probably going to be either the Bills or the one of the South teams, the Texans, right?
right.
We just saw the Ravens beat the Texans like in
Yeah.
in the playoff. Like this, these things could have. Derrick Henry could run for 300 yards on that Bills run defense. So like, I would I would lean Ravens,
So I
but I wouldn't have the
assuming
Panthers far. But I wouldn't have the Panthers far behind. But I might have to make an argument, actually make an argument for my Steelers over the Panthers based on the month.
well, I only have one argument to keep the Panthers above the Steelers. I'll give you Ravens at 14. I think the
Okay.
Chiefs can drop down to 20-ish, give or take. So
Okay.
um
What's your argument for the Panthers over the Steelers? Is
I
it
have
that
one
their quarterback is 40 years older than the Panthers quarterback,
pretty
approximately?
much.
Okay.
Pretty much. No, here's what the first thing I wrote for both the Ravens and the Steelers was I copied and pasted this line that's the Ravens and Steelers are 16 and 17 because neither team deserves to be in the playoffs, but now one of them will get in. I know that's kind of a cheap shot, but
It's
Pittsburgh should have
warranted, man.
already clinched. Pittsburgh should have already clinched Simon, and then we could have put them at 14. But no, they have to give the Ravens new life because they couldn't beat the Browns. No,
Stupid.
my stat is that Kenneth Gainwell is leading your team in receptions, and he is second in targets.
That's good, right? Your RB2 that you got for
Your
$3 million
RB2
should
is
be your top
leading in
receiver.
receptions and second in targets. But
What's wrong with that? I
if
think
your
that's fine.
argument is compelling enough, I'll give you above the Panthers. You got to prove it though.
Yeah, I can't do that. I mean, I can't. You want me to do what? Here's the thing. Steelers 3-1 this month. Wins over the Ravens, the Dolphins, the Lions. They lose to the Browns. 13th in overall DVOA, 16th on offense, 11th on defense. Um, and here's the thing, man. The AFC North has been defined by banged up quarterbacks, right?
Sure.
Joe Burrow missed the first half of the season. What? I don't even remember what his injury was at this point. Was it
I don't.
ankle? Was it ankle foot? Whatever Burrow was dealing with for the first half of the season. Lamar, his whole leg just about fell off, right? So leg injuries and whatever Burrow had, and the Steelers quarterback, osteoporosis, arthritis, sore back, all those things that members of AARP are dealing with every single week. It's the same. It's the same story across the AFC North. That was my only real thing on the Steelers. Um, Rogers said it. I forget which game it was. Maybe it was maybe it was the Lions game where he said, you know, man, once you're this age, some days you just roll out of bed and you feel good. And that's how the Steelers offense is decided on a week by week basis. Just like how does Rodgers like how fast can he get out of bed in the morning? Um and you can see it in the way he plays because even just the Lions game and the Dolphins games, like just weeks prior, he's moving around in the pocket, he's getting outside the pocket, he's throwing over the middle of the field, he's letting plays develop. And there was the whole thing about Myles Garrett and the sack record, right?
Mm,
And so now the whole thing on Twitter, especially Steelers Twitter, is they cared more about avoiding the sack record than they
mhm.
did about winning the game. And to an extent, that's true. And to an extent, I don't care. I'm okay with that. I'm a petty
Right.
fan. The Steelers aren't
Yeah.
winning the Super Bowl. Don't let Myles Garrett get break TJ
Against,
Watt's sack
yes.
record against. Absolutely not.
Because
I'm
now
okay.
if he does it, it's taken the full 18 weeks, which it
It
doesn't
doesn't
matter
count. It
anymore.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter. TJ did it in 15 games when he did.
Yeah.
He missed a couple games that season. Dude, you know I'm all over that, man. I could be level-headed about a lot of things, but I will
But not
negate
that.
that sack record. That's for sure. Um, Here's the thing: the Steelers as a team treated Myles Garrett the way they always treat Myles Garrett. They chip, they slide, they run away, they throw away, all that stuff.
Yep.
But if you specifically pay attention to Aaron Rodgers that week versus all the other weeks, he like took it upon himself to do it to another level. He
Mm,
refused to not only it wasn't just Myles Garrett sack record or win the game for him. It was the way I what I'm gonna do on a play by play basis on my own, right? So I'm not gonna look at certain routes because it's like 1% more likely to generate a sack because I have to wait till the window of a defensive lineman's arms are down because I'm going to throw over the middle of the field or at the line of scrimmage. Instead, I just want to like chuck the ball to the sideline for Scotty Miller on a 4th and 1. It was Danny Heifetz on the Ringer Fantasy Football Show brought this up. This is just him avoiding more Brett Favre comparisons. Brett Favre took the Michael Strahan sack. And Rodgers was not going to do that with Myles Garrett. And like, you know what? I respect the pettiness level, but at the same time, man, just chuck the ball 6 yards on the drag route. I don't like. I'd rather you throw an interception. But what's the other Rodgers bugaboo? He'll never throw in the tight wind. He doesn't want to throw interception, so he's going to throw to the silent.
yep.
And it's just like, man, for the quarterback's play to be so dictated on vanity and literally how he feels when he wakes up in the morning is just ultra depressing. So no, I'm not gonna fight for the Steelers to be above the Panthers, other than the fact that they're 3-1 this month, and the Panthers are 1-2, and the Panthers have a small quarterback, but I have an old quarterback. So like I don't know. It's fine. Whatever. Stupid Steelers. The
We should
the
just
great poetry of this is Malik Willis is gonna be a Steeler next year. And it was the whole Malik Willis versus Kenny Pickett thing in 2022 which blew up in everybody's face. And ironically, it was the Panthers at 6. That draft, I'm going on a rant here. That draft was at 6, the Panthers, and at 20, the Steelers. Those were the quarterback teams in that draft.
mhm.
No, the Panthers don't take anybody. Pickett goes 20, and then Malik Willis goes in the 3rd round or whatever it was. And now
Yep.
Malik Willis is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler next year.
Mark your
And
words.
Kenny Pickett will be, dude, honestly, I actually, so I want to do this take now. I might as well get out in front of it. It's also just the hour 13 mark of this podcast. Um, the Panthers should Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis next year. Like the Panthers quarterbacks that never were, right? We
Yeah.
just
Yep.
recreate that. Former 1st round pick pedigree guys.
Yep.
Darnold and Baker actually top 3 picks, but Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett were supposed to be the core. They should just bring those 2 guys in and
Yeah.
complete with Bryce Young, and I think that would be hilarious.
That
Anyways,
would be that would be
stay
hilarious.
tuned for the famed quarterback prediction podcast the week after the Super Bowl.
We could always test your Canva abilities, and you could cut each the Steelers and Panthers logos in half and blend them together like one of those combo jerseys that parents get when their kids are on opposite teams, and then put them in both 15, 16, and we'll wait to see who wins their division. It'll be perfect. But who plays
Yeah, I'm
better?
not.
They might both lose their division. So
They both suck. It doesn't matter, man. We're in the dredges of the rankings at this point. And we're doing all this, and both teams are going to be on this page, right? Are we just doing
yes.
so? So Panthers at 15, Steelers at 16. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
I hope everyone enjoyed my mental breakdown, despite the fact that it really didn't make a
I
huge
love
impact. And
I love that the pettiness is real because at first I was like, okay, really? But now I love that's real. Between the Myles Garrett sacks, what I'm talking about.
dude,
I
all I
love that.
cared about in the Packers Ravens game was I was like, oh, it'd be so cool if the Packers won this game. And then the
Yeah.
Steelers could literally only play to avoid the sack record. That would have been my number one goal. And even like 100% to 0%. Like I would not have cared about winning the game. The
Right.
Steelers win the game at all had the division already been locked up. Um, but then it was like 60-40 after. I'm gonna be honest, man. Whatever. My job's not on the line if the Steelers win a Super
Right.
Bowl. Screw you, Steeler fans. I don't care. Anyways,
No, I hear you. I would not want a Packers player to set a record against the Vikings. I feel like it's happened a lot. So I don't know if it has. I
Aaron Rodgers might have a few of
to do
those
some
AAR
research, but I'm with you. I do not want to do that.
A
All right. So I
Aaron
think we have the
Rodgers RP, A Aaron Rodgers P.
Ooh,
While we're doing name puns from earlier, right?
yeah.
AARP, A Aaron Rodgers,
AAR
AARP, um,
Aaron Aaron P.
Aaron. There's something there. There's something there. Someone smarter than us will figure it out. All right.
Better than
So
Caleb Believer.
there's there's our 9 through 16. Bears, Broncos, Texans, Chargers, Lions, Ravens, Panthers, Steelers. Quick reminder of our top 8 were Rams, Bills, Patriots, Seahawks, Niners, Eagles, Packers, Jags. Josh, we're at the 1 hour, 16 minute of this podcast. Let's see how we do on the back half here. Uh, not oh well, the Chiefs are pictured here. So here's our 17-24. We have a lot of similarities. Let's start at the bottom here
Okay.
because we both have the Saints at 23 making a big leap. Talk about New
Yeah.
Orleans.
Yeah, that's one of the few teams I wanted to talk about down here. I do have some things to say about Atlanta when we get there, but we'll start with the Saints. My first line was, "Wow, Simon, I actually care about the Saints a teeny tiny little bit." I think like everybody probably started to hear rumblings that, wait a second, is Tyler Shuck playing well? Is he playing well? Why is he doing well? He wasn't supposed to do well, et cetera, et cetera. But he actually is, and I actually watched a kind of a cool. Kurt Warner does a breakdown, like a study hall. Really good YouTube content for anyone that wants to watch a guy who's got great experience. Obviously, is an expert. Break some
Pretty
things
good.
down.
Hmm.
But he did a profile on Tyler Shuck, and he goes through his mistakes too. It's not just like a love fest for Tyler Shuck. Like he's not perfect by any means, but um, the way he's playing right now, like timing wise, like with hitting his reads at the right time, he's playing like a pretty mature quarterback, and he's got the Saints offense doing pretty well. I mean, I know a lot of fantasy people won some of their leagues because Chris Olave really turned it on near the second part of the season. And so that's my favorite part is that he's just playing maturely. And I think that's exactly what the Saints need because this team has been in contract shambles forever. Like they need a guy like this who's not a high draft capital who they're gonna have to worry about re-signing right away, but he's going to keep them competitive next year. If they can shore up the trenches, if they can get somebody to replace Alvin Kamara, if they can, because he's getting too far up there, whatever the holes they need on defense, like this is exactly the stabilizing force you can have because this is what you can do with a competitive rebuild. In the NFC South, Tyler Shuck can be
Hmm.
have them fighting for a division title now.
Next
Um,
year. Absolutely.
Next year, exactly. And so it's just fun to see because he was a guy that was kind of like a throwaway. Like, wait, should they even try to start him? It's going to be Spencer Rattler, probably, right? And so, like, just one of those guys that comes in, does his job, and proves with his play that he's earned it. And so that's been really fun. And I never really have good things to say about the Saints, but I think there's a lot of hope there, and I think it's the perfect fit because it's not the same pressure of top five pick, we better be winning in the playoffs. That like
Yep.
this is so great for Kellen Moore to continue to build his head coaching chops with a quarterback that can let him do offense the way Kellen Moore wants to do offense. Um, but he shouldn't be on the hot seat for the next 2 years either. Like he
Nope.
should be able to just develop a quarterback. And this is about all Saints fans and organization can ask for, considering they don't have a lot of wiggle room financially. Like this is what they needed. They needed someone to step up, and I think he has. And so it's actually a really cool story. And so I was happy to move them up because when you look at their recent record, they're winning games, they're competing in games, and if things had turned around a little bit earlier, that they could have won the NFC South this year. It's just a weird.
Hilarious.
This was my pick 32, I think. This was my team
Yep.
32 when the season started. So I'm eating my own words here, I guess. So
Yeah, the Saints are, and the Saints, they were 32nd for us in last month's power ranking. Now, part of that was the Justin Tucker tryout. Um,
it's right.
but there's two, they're still in the bottom 10 here at 23, but there is too much good football happening on the field
Yep.
to ignore for what we're doing on this power rankings. This month, the Saints are 4-0. They've beaten the Bucks, the Panthers, the Jets, and the Titans. They're 28th, 27th, and 14th in DVOA across the season. When I was pulling my stats for this month specifically, the Saints were all over the place, man. Listen to this. They are 10th in the NFL in yards gained. They're 5th in point differential. They're 9th in yards per play. And get this, they are 2nd in yards allowed per play defensively. Now, again, I know we're not talking about the best offenses that they've
Right.
played in this month,
Right.
but you don't get that number and you don't
No.
get those numbers across the board without like
Team
good
32,
real stuff happening.
Team 32 does not get that number, those numbers.
Brandon Staley is the defensive coordinator, and let's not forget who he was as a defensive coordinator before he became like this
Yep.
was a dude, this was a Vic Fangio disciple calling defenses, and if he's gonna fall into that camp of he's just better as a coordinator, and it's him and Kellen Moore here rocking for a while,
Yep.
real stuff is happening here. And here's a little stat for you that I'll give you on a unprepared trivia as well. Chuck, this month is one of three quarterbacks with 1,000 passing yards and just one interception. Who are the other two?
And just one interception
One interception, 1,000 passing yards
in this
in
month.
this month.
Is Joe Burrow one of them?
Nope.
Um,
Two guys we've already talked about heavily tonight.
it's not Caleb, is it?
Caleb,
He only has one interception. Wow.
one
My,
interception
my
this month.
bias is still strong. So Caleb Williams and then
This is a Josh guy. This is a Josh guy that we've talked about a lot tonight.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
Let's go.
The big three, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, and Tyler Shuck, baby. We're
Elite
moving. We're
quarterback
moving.
play. Can't deny it.
All right, so that was all I had on Saints. I saw all that. I was like, oh my God, how far up can I move him? And honestly,
Yeah.
like part of me is like,
Yeah.
here, I'll pull Camo back up for everybody. We have
Well,
this tier here with the Bucks and the Colts and the Chiefs, which are just like the carcasses of what were good teams early in the year that are just
that's
bad, mostly because of injuries right now. So how far down do we move them? Who exactly gets above them? We'll sort out. As everybody can see, Josh and I like we basically agree on these teams. It'll just be how far down we move.
yeah.
We move some of these guys, but um, I think because the Saints we both had at 23, we'll just lock them in there. Same with the Falcons there
Yeah.
at 24. But
Yeah.
there's a case that the Saints right now, just like vibes, how they're playing, what their quarterback is doing have moved into a new kind of realm. But I think here at 23, just on the edge of bottom 10 is still the right spot for them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's I think you said it. It's hard. We finally bought into the Colts and had them on the fringes of the top 10. And Daniel
Hmm.
Jones goes down, right? And Philip Rivers comes in and they're number one in our hearts right now. We love Philip Rivers, but they're not doing anything and they obviously got eliminated. So
And
so
didn't
they
they
had to take
officially
it.
say today that Leonard would start? Is he going to start week 18?
I hope so.
I think we saw
I,
something
I
like
my
that.
my 37-year-old body is in pain for Philip Rivers' 44-year-old body, and I want him to sit this week out. If he wants to hit the offseason workouts hard, now that he's got a team that and shows that his arm can do a little bit still, then by all means prep the body, but don't play in week 18, please,
Do you
Philip.
think there's
Don't
a
hurt
real case
yourself.
he plays football next year?
No, no, I don't. But
Oh, okay. All right.
if they're if he's thinking that, I would prefer he gets his body right because my 37-year-old body is in pain for his, and I just can't imagine getting a severe injury going into your prime family, going back to your prime family years after not having to play football every day of your life. Like
He's got grandkids, man. That's
that is crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Anyways, all right, whatever.
All right.
Done with Philip Rivers. Okay.
I'll just
What else you want
I
to hit here?
I have two things on the Falcons, and then we can sort out the front there because the
All
one I
right.
have to say publicly is kind of an apology to the Falcons.
Nah, don't apologize. They're stupid, but go ahead.
They are stupid, but I'm going to give them credit. The Falcons were fourth in pass rush win rate, Simon.
Mm.
That's 42%. James Pierce is
The
12th.
Miles Garrett, if you will.
Yes, exactly. James Pierce is 12th overall in pass rush win rate. Okay. And Jalon Walker is a higher PFF pass rush grade than Pierce. And then we saw what they did to the Rams last night. Onyemata gets involved, Roro gets involved. And so I'm saying all this just to say, okay, I think I can appreciate their draft picks because they took Jalon Walker and then they traded back up to get James Pierce Jr., who we talked about preseason last year, a big talent that started falling off. And I was like, he's too small to be a force. And then they traded up to get him. And I was like, what are they doing? The year after they did the quarterback debacle, blah, 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 blah. But they have something in the front seven now on defense. And so they still have a lot to work out. They're still the 24th ranked team. But I was going to say, you know what? Maybe they got credit because they don't have a first round pick this upcoming draft. But if your two first round picks from this past year are doing first round pick things, then it doesn't really matter, right? And so, yeah, it's going to hurt when everyone else is picking in the first round and you don't have one. But if you can remind yourself, well, we have two up and coming, potentially above average edge rushers for this defense. That wasn't never bad. It just didn't always click. I feel like they deserve a little bit of an apology for me, you're right. I shouldn't have to apologize. They're still dumb. They're still stupid, but they get
They
credit
only
for
beat
that.
good teams.
Yeah. So I
They're
wanted to
three
give
and
them a
one
little.
this month.
Yeah.
They lost. They've beaten the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals. But yes, I you're right. You're right. They should get a little something. Where did we have them last time? Isn't this technically a move up? If we put them at
It's a move
24,
up
weren't they at
because
26? They were at 25, so they get they get to go up one spot.
Well, it's funny because I tried to move them down last time. I was like, well, they're actually still competitive winning games. It's just
I know.
they're such a weird team because they have, in my opinion, at least a top three offensive player in the league in Bijan Robinson.
Yes.
Um, and Kirk Cousins
Something.
looks like he's finally healthy. And so, but I know they're not going to my other thing for the Falcons was like they have an out for Kirko after this season.
Yep.
They have a contract out. They'd be much like 40 million less in dead cap, and they could move on because he has a no trade clause. And if I'm the Falcons, even though he's playing well at the end of the season, the dumbest thing they could do is go back and run this back next year and with Kirko and then not let Penix develop because Penix was he was not good necessarily, but he was up and down as young quarterbacks are, and you invested in him with a high draft capital. I think you get out of the Kirk money, so we could have some fun predicting where Kirko is going to play next year. Um,
Also the Steelers. Uh,
also,
that's nice, but also remember Michael Penix had reconstructive knee surgery again. That happened.
yeah,
ah, ah. That's
that's tough.
the Kevin Hart. Um, One note on
Yeah,
James
that
Pierce.
changes
I
things.
sent I sent this to Ben. He and I were chatting the other day. Um, James Pierce is up to 8.5 sacks this season, and this was before the Rams game. So I don't know if he collected a half sack in that game or got one of them or not. Um, Over the first 8 weeks of the season, he had half a sack. In the last 7 weeks, he has had 8 sacks.
Jeez.
So this is the fundamental. Is this him just like he figured it out? It took half a season. Now he's ready to go, or is this? He's getting a lot of cleanup sacks right now. He's just right place, right time. I didn't go back and watch all of them to really grade him or
Right.
anything, but like, just of note, interesting. I said in the award show with Peyton, like, it could still turn around in terms of trading that pick. Like, he could turn it
Yeah.
around, and like, he was in the midst of turning it around at that time. And listen, if he finishes his rookie year with 9 sacks, 9.5 sacks, 10 sacks, like,
Yep.
that's looking pretty sweet because if you got those edge rushers, like, that's a huge deal. That's probably what you would have tried to do in this draft with the way this draft is looking, like I pick 10, 11, 12. That's probably where you would have been looking. Um, Anyways, we don't need to do that whole thing right now. So let's sort out these remaining teams here. So
Here's
we have the Cowboys we have the Cowboys, we have the Bengals, who we like more than the Vikings, both of us.
mhm.
You had the Chiefs way up high, so I want to know where you kind of want to sort them out with the Bucks and Colts
Yeah.
carcasses, as we said. Um,
Yes.
And then we could just everyone knows what those teams are. Really good offense, really bad
Yep.
defense. Teams that were
Yep.
good, really bad now because of injuries. So let's sort out the order for them, and then I'll give you a minute to talk about your undefeated Vikings for the month of December.
Yes. I think Cowboys got to go 17 because that's where we have that makes sense here. And I'm not ready to put the Chiefs back in there yet. My only rule is the Chiefs need to be ahead of the Bucks. I think
Deal.
since you had the Bengals above the Vikes, and we have the theme of elite offense
Hmm.
takes the cake. My Vikings defense has been a beautiful thing to watch, and it's made these not these meaningless games at the end of the season fun to watch. Like we had, Harrison Smith getting emotional. Like he's like, this is the best performance
Hmm.
we've ever had. As I've been a part of as a defense. Like that's still cool football stuff, and it's
Yep.
fun as a fan. I have a really hard time. I was telling everyone in my family, I was like, can't believe my Vikes are playing on Christmas Day. This is the best present ever, and it means nothing. But watching the game, seeing the defense play that way, it was really fun to watch. So they're still providing for the fans. Um, but in this case, elite offense, Burrow and Chase are connecting again. And I just my one note for them was like, can we just get one season of fully healthy Joe Burrow and a mediocre defense? Because we barely got that in the year they got to the Super Bowl. Remember, he got sacked
I was
nine
about to say
times
that's kind
along
of
the
the
way.
Super
Like he
Bowl, but yeah, Burrow certainly wasn't fully healthy the whole time.
they somehow limped there that year. But imagine this team with a middle of the road defense and a full year of healthy Burrow. And I just think that the Bengals, they're just fun to watch. Like, I know that they're your rival, and I don't necessarily root for them necessarily, but they're a fun team to watch. So, I'll give them the nod over my Vikes, and then we got to go Chiefs at 20 because I have to have the Chiefs
Okay.
above the Bucks. So let's go the Chiefs at 20, and then we both had Bucks Colts. I think that makes sense. Um, the Bucks, I don't like to celebrate people's demise and misery. I'm usually a
Of
more
course not.
positive person than that. But if you recall a few years ago, I said they should not run it back with Baker Mayfield, and they gave him the big money deal. And their little window of competing has run its course. And even at the time we said this is the division you can compete in, so I guess it makes sense. But they're gonna have to start over a little bit. Now the nice thing is they have some good weapons offensively. I don't know where they go defensively necessarily. Their offensive line has plenty of pieces. You got Tristan Wirfs still there, but I think this is the final year of Baker Mayfield's contract, so he'll be done. I've heard rumors that Bowles is going to be out. Unfortunately, I like Todd Bowles as a coach, but I think they need a fresh restart in Tampa Bay. Um, and if I was a Bucks fan, like I don't know, I'm torn because I always want to compete. I always want my team to compete and not tank or anything. But all I'm going to be thinking now is, what if we didn't give him the contract? What if we started the started the new quarterback back then? And again, I'm not trying to hate on Baker Mayfield this hard as it's coming across, but he's doing some of the same stuff that we've always seen him do. Like his accuracy's always been a question. Like he competes, but he's not always perfect. And he's not the only reason for their losses necessarily, but it's a big part of it. And so it's time to clean house a little bit in Tampa Bay, and that's a bummer for a team that you know, at times this year look like they might make a big run for it. So,
Um, Baker's not a free agent, but they can get out of the deal
oh, I thought it
fairly
was
unscathed.
gotcha.
Mike Evans is a free agent. Mike
Mm.
Evans is a free agent. I can pull up the full list of their free agents if we want to turn around and make this. What did
I
the
thought
Bucks do?
I thought Baker was a 3-year deal. Is this only the second year? Is that my problem?
Yes,
All right, my bad.
it was the extension off of the whatever he
Gotcha.
got in 2023,
Yeah,
2024.
yeah. Okay, never mind.
Um, but if they post June 1st him, if they wanted to, if like they did the Bowles thing, the new person was like, hey, I want to do something different. Um, they could do it. That they would save 27 million on the cap in this year, and I guess their dead cap would be 12 million each of the next two seasons. So they definitely could if they wanted to do that.
Gotcha.
Um, but Mike Evans is a free agent, so like, what does this team do with that? That's a whole other discussion
Right.
that I want to get into. But we are at hour 33 of the pod, so we won't do that today.
Fair enough.
Um, yeah, the defense was playing well at the early part of the season. All the young DBs that they drafted that I really liked were playing well, but I think they were just getting banged up throughout the season. Um, the run game since Bucky Irving came back just like hasn't really gone well. I talked about on the pod with Payne, I think either six or eight, I think maybe eight different offensive line combinations over the course of the season. Like
Yikes.
for Bucks, Colts, and Chiefs, this whole tier here, and yeah, we'll go Chiefs 20, Bucks 21, Colts 22. Just injuries just kind of took them out, and unlike the Lions, who kind of held on there for as long as they could, these teams kind of let go of the reins.
Yep.
Um, for 4-ish weeks ago. So that's where those teams are going to finish behind the Bengals and Cowboys with their really good offenses, the Vikings with their really good defense, and then in between there, the Saints and the Falcons who are playing well, playing above their talent, and certainly have some questions moving forward.
Yep.
And here's where we have at the bottom. We both have the Raiders 32, Jets 31. Both have the Browns 25, Commanders 26. We both have the Dolphins and Titans and Giants all relatively in the same place. I don't think there's much we have to say here. The one stat that I have for this tier that I want to talk about is the Jets. So yes, the Raiders are embarrassing and they're the clear 32 for this rank. The Jets are 0-4 this month, much like the Raiders. They've lost to the Dolphins, the Jags, the Saints, and the Patriots. 31st, 30th, 31st in DVOA. But here's the thing on the Jets. When I did my filters to get the stats for the month, I set it as like point differential greater than or equal to minus 100, right? Just so I could see point differential in the data set, but I was like minus 100, like that's going to encompass all teams, right?
Right.
You want to know how many teams populated under that search?
One or 31,
Other way,
31,
31.
31.
31. The Jets are minus 107 this month. I was like,
Ooh,
oh boy. Oh boy. So that's my stat on the Jets. Tell me why the Cardinals are moving all the way down to 30 for you. Then we'll
I
run this
don't
thing out.
remember what I said.
I mean, other than the fact that they're a joke. I mean, I think I've said the last two power rankings that we just don't need to talk about. They are 0-4. They've
Oh,
lost to the Bengals, the Falcons, the Texans, the Rams. So they're bad for sure.
they're bad, and I think I punish them because like it's okay to be bad. Like it's okay for the Titans to be bad because it's the first year of a rookie quarterback, right? The Cardinals are bad, but they're trying to be competitive. And as much as I'm a big Jacoby Brissett guy. I love hit like he's going to look back and feel really proud of his career as he should. He's had a really good career overall. But this is a team going nowhere, and so there's nothing to get excited about. Like there's not the youth there for the quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do with Kyler Murray. So I just wrote I don't really know what to say about this team, and so I had no problem burying them because it's less exciting than like even the Giants are giving me moments of excitement because I like what Jackson Dart brings to the table, and I'm calling it.
We
They're going to finish 8-9 next year. I'm going to predict it now.
okay.
So
I'm inspired.
if we do the wins over under again, depending on what theirs is, I'm going to say 8-9 for the Giants.
Oh, are you telling me you're gonna take the over?
It
Is that
depends. If it's 7.5, I'll take the over. If it's if it's eight and a
you
half,
want
I'm
to
gonna
go
take
ahead and preemptively tell me all the other teams you're gonna take the over on?
no.
As you did this year. I haven't gone back and looked in the last few weeks. I wonder how everybody's doing.
I know
Um,
I think I'm better than I was at the check-in time. At the check-in time it looked grim for me, but I think
you
it's
know, it's
getting
it's almost like it's all 50-50. It's almost like it's all 50-50. So if you just bet all the way in one direction, you'll probably get it.
That's right.
Math,
But
man, it's crazy how that thing works.
But yeah, there's not much to say here. I'm not going to advocate too much for the Cardinals. I think the other teams down here, like I mentioned, the Giants would be. I think they'll be fun next year, but they have to have somebody besides Andrew Thomas on their offensive line. Like it's the fantasy podcast I listen to religiously. They always do the splits like when Andrew Thomas plays versus when he
Yep.
doesn't. I was like, your offense can't. I mean, I know like for a while, like San Francisco's offense, definitely impacted by Trent Williams' presence or absence, but they at least could function without Trent Williams. They wouldn't be as good, but they could at least function. Like the Giants seemingly are almost really good with Andrew Thomas and then just colossally terrible without him. It's like you have to have the ability to do something with more than one offensive lineman. Um, you know, Tennessee, it's just a wait and see how they do the draft, how their offseason looks, see what they do next year. So there's not a lot to say about it. Cam Ward's done some nice things. He's building some rapport, some receivers like DK. Um, they don't have any help for Jeffrey Simmons on the defensive line, like if they could do something there. But again, it's for these teams, it's all about what does the future hold. And then I think the biggest disappointment on these teams, well, actually, there's two big disappointments for me in this lower tier, and that's the Raiders, who I
That's it.
thought were
Only
going to
two.
be competitive, um, and they can't figure out their offensive line, and Gino has not had a good year. I think they got to do everything different next year. And then the Commanders, who seemingly were like without Jaden Daniels, at first they were competitive. I thought it was going to be good, but we're finding that this team is more than just our quarterback got injured that they need. They need more than just Jaden Daniels next year. They need a healthy Jaden Daniels for sure, but they need offensive line help. They need some defensive secondary help. I was trying to figure out how many tackles Mikey Sanders still has had because every Commanders game he's on either side of the field making seemingly all the tackles. It's not. He's like fourth. think he's like third or fourth on the team in combination tackles, but it's always down the field. It's always him hustling the side right. I love watching him play, but it's so
He's
many
incredible.
tackles after so many yards have been given up that it's like this is not a recipe for a defensive success. But I think he's like, I mean, Bobby Wagner's leading the team in tackles by a million,
Yeah.
but Sanders still's kind of up there. So
And unfortunately for our guy Sam still, Javonte Williams put him in the absolute dirt
yeah,
in that game against
yeah,
the Cowboys. Just like that's, but that's what happens when you stick your face in the fan the way Sam still does. That's gonna happen every now and again.
yep,
But
for
just
sure.
like absolutely like head crushing stiff arm into the turf. Um, I'm fine with the Cardinals at 30 because here's the thing. Spiritually, I like the way the Titans and the Dolphins are playing. I think much
Yep,
better than the Cardinals. I think the Commanders and the Browns are just much better teams. And
yep.
then New York, I just went back to double check, and New York is at least like some they've been they destroy the Raiders last week, but in the previous two games against the Commanders and the Vikings, those were one score games. The Cardinals are 0-4 this month. They have the one score game to the Falcons, again, the Giant Slayer who can't beat bad
Can't
teams,
be crappy
but
teams.
they were uncompetitive against the Bengals, Texans, and Rams and the other. And those are all good teams, right? The Bengals really good offense at least, but uncompetitive in those games. So yeah, man, let's slide the Cardinals down. That's fine. We've spent 2.5 power ranking seasons on just like what are the Cardinals.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and end their 5.0 and what year three of this ranking,
Yeah.
doing this power rankings with just putting them, making them start with a three. I think that's fitting. So that's where they will be until they make some changes. Um, all right, let's pull up the full rank again. So
And I
here's
will
the
say,
top half
while
of
you're
the
doing
league.
that, I
Oh,
was just going to say real quick about the Dolphins. They made our jobs easier on the Bucks because the worst thing they could have done is lose to the Bucks, and we would have had to say, well, are the Bucks kind of back because they beat the Dolphins with Quinn Ewers? But no, they couldn't even beat the Dolphins with Quinn Ewers. So thanks, Dolphins. My team, the Dolphins.
your
Next year.
team, famed.
Next next
Also
year.
the over, also taking the over. All right, so yeah, here's the top 16. The Rams and the Bills are still good. Nobody panic, but the Patriots and Seahawks and Niners we fully believe in now. Packers don't overreact. Jags are in it to win it. Bears, Broncos, Texans, that was a good conversation. And then the Chargers and Lions, that's where we start to get to the sad teams. Just like things didn't go 12 through 16. Things didn't go this year the way you wanted them to. And then the Panthers, who are just happy to be there.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
my daughter, when she sees me put these together, how are the big kitty cats? How are the big kitties doing? You know what? They're doing pretty good. They're doing all right. And then here are the teams kind of slumming it down here. Cowboys and Bengals just being high octane offenses that don't care about defenses. I think they're literally. Let me look at my notes. Where are the Bengals in offensive DVOA? They're 14th this year because the first half of the year was so rough, but
Yep.
literally like 30th and 32nd in defense, those
Yeah.
teams. Um, and then your team at 19 is completely flipped. They are up to fourth in defensive DVOA.
So
So like
good.
it is good. I didn't say much about them earlier. It's good to see the defense back because
Yeah.
beginning of the year they were just kind of in the like 9th to 12th territory because the offense was so bad, but the offense is just good enough they're able to do things. Saints make the big play to 23. The Raiders are terrible. The Cardinals fall. And yeah, man, that's the rank. That's the rank. Um, quick plug here at the end for box score. Listen, if you're on YouTube, if you've been here this whole time and I haven't talked to you specifically on YouTube, thank you for being here. This is Simon Friends Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Make sure you check out our other shows on Box Score Network. All these are audio pods. Pro Football Enterprises is also a YouTube channel. Tricky Takes also posts on their YouTube channel occasionally, but those are all audio pods that you can listen to and Box Score Network. Draft content all over the place on Box Score Network. So head over to that YouTube channel as well to get your draft content fixed. But thank you all for being here. Josh, 5.0, man. 5 episodes. We did it. That was a good season, good power rank. I appreciate everything you did, man. That was awesome.
100%. It was fun. I love how in lockstep we are with some of these teams. It's fun to have some similars, but of course we're always going to have our um, teams that you think are better because of, evidence and data. And then there'll be me with now the Josh eye test says otherwise. So
Except the Broncos, you care about things like wins, and I
yeah,
care about
yeah.
how much you chuck the ball down the field. Um, You'll be back next week. It's not
Yep.
another power rankings, but we're going to preview the NFL playoffs. So we'll have a fun thing that we've done in different forms or fashions over the course of this podcast. So if you've been a listener for a while, you'll be familiar with the concept. But Josh will be here. Someone from Box Score Network will be here as well. We'll play a little game, get ready for the playoffs. So it's not the end of you being here just because the season is over. We'll do some fun stuff in the off season. We'll update our quarterback power rankings, QB situation power rankings. We'll get everybody ready for the off season as well through power rankings. So it's not the last power ranking show, but it is the last in season power ranking show. So Josh, again, I appreciate all your work there. It was
Thanks
fun.
for having me.
Thank you all so much for being here. I think what I'm going to do for this one, I wasn't posting images of the ranking each month. I probably should have done that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a side by side of our 1.0 to our 5.0 and just see how
Oh,
big the difference is. And
that would be
so
fun.
make sure you guys go on socials and check that out and interact and tell us how dumb we were at the 1.0 or how dumb we are now, which version of us you think was smarter. But it's been a great time. So again, if you're here on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, tell us your rank if you want to go 1 to 32 and be crazy, or just let us know uh, how you think this went overall. And if you're an A1 Day One on audio, as always, thank you. We really appreciate it. And we will talk to you guys next week. Everybody have a, again, happy and safe New Year's. Happy, safe New Year's Eve and day, whenever this comes out, whenever you're listening. But thank you so much. Have fun and be safe out there.